Now, there are some words which today, well, whichever generation you're in, there are favorite words, and then the words which are kind of hit words and cool words, but then they become cold words, and then they fall off the scale. One of the words that is out of fashion today is church. Many people that used to go to church don't go to church anymore. Uh, People say church is full of hypocrites. Not true. Some hypocrites, true, but not full of them. Millennials say church is irrelevant and it's not touching where I'm at. And so church itself, the word church has fallen out of favor. I kind of understand it, but when you understand the church to be the body of Christ, he's the head, he's the headship of the church. The church is the expression of Christ on the planet. Now, if you think about it in those terms, of course we can't do away with church. That means we're doing away with the body of Christ. We have a disembodied head. We are the expression of Christ on the planet. It's a huge story, but at the end of the day, God has always looked for his human partner, which is you and me, his full human partner, to carry out his divine work. Are you aware that God has entrusted, if you're trying to be a Christian, or if you want to be a Christian, do you know that God is willing to let you represent his reputation? It's a fantastic thing that he stakes his reputation on your and my behavior. That's the church. Now, if we think about going to a building on a Sunday morning, that can be sterile. It can be boring. It isn't always, but it can be. You can have a decent preacher, or you can some guys that drives a stick up a bag of bones, and you're bored out of your brains. Well, of course you don't, and the choir might be off key, or you may not get to worship, or whatever. I understand that. If you think that's what church is, I'm not surprised that sometimes it falls out of fashion, but that is not what church is. If you are offended by the word church, okay, find another one. But don't throw out the idea of church with the word. The church is his body. He wants an expression. He doesn't want to be just away in heaven blessing us and taking care of us and relating to us. He wants us to express his love. And Jesus told us that the whole of the law and the prophets, everything in the Bible is summed up in two sentences. Two phrases. Love God and love people. Now, my dear friend, that's the church. These are his hands. We speak his words. He wants us to be him. I would go so far as to say that if you're a Christian, God's intention for your life is that you are God with skin on. God in human flesh. The Word became flesh. The Word himself became flesh. Jesus Christ the Word became flesh, and he's become flesh in you today. So listen, if the word church offends you, if you're a millennial, you don't want to go to church anymore, boring, well then be the church. In fact, if you're a Christian, you are the church. So get together with some other people who love Jesus, and you're the church. I remember I read a story, and probably this is my last story for today, but I read an article in the London Times. I was flying back from Europe to America on I can't remember why, and the article a few years ago was written by the Archbishop of Canterbury, the head of the Episcopalian Church, the Anglican Church. And today, he's a decent guy today, it's lovely, but this article said that Europe is post-Christian. And I read this thing, and I read his little treatise, and his argument was, Europe is post-Christian because people don't go to church anymore. Well, in that case, he's right. But my spirit, my heart was incensed. I'm thinking, that absolutely is not true. It's not post-Christian. I don't think people are less willing to believe today than they ever were. I think it's post-church as we know it. If you think of a church building, if you think about a preacher and a choir and all the other things which may or may not be relevant and have nothing to say to you. But you want community. If you're a millennial, you want community. So do I. I want my friends around. I want coffee. I like good coffee, by the way, not bad coffee. I like good coffee. So do you. And that would be church, and we get together. So if you need another word, find the word. In Spain, we are calling it mosaico. It's a mosaic of people. That's the church. We get together. So wherever you are, don't complain about your idea of a dead church. Be the living church. Europe is not post-Christian, it's post-church as we know it. Maybe America is. But you and I can be that church to our community. Open your home, open your heart. It's a cup of coffee and a slice of toast and time. That's all it is. Let somebody tell you their story. You tell them your story. Find God together. Break bread together. Maybe have a glass of wine together. My dear friend, that is the body of Christ on the planet. That is the church.